everybody. Welcome to the LinkedIn Collective Studio here at B2Believe in NYC. My name is Nikki Shetty. I am the VP of Integrated Marketing here at LinkedIn, and we have a very exciting topic to cover today. We're going to be talking about the intersection of generative AI and B2B marketing. We'll talk about the benefits, some of the challenges we need to navigate, how we can integrate it into all of our strategies. And we have an expert here with us to guide us in that conversation. Megan, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
So excited for you to be here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Megan Keeney Anderson. I run marketing for Jasper, which is a AI co-pilot designed specifically for marketing teams. Teams that want on-brand outputs, they want performance-driven AI, and that's what we try to provide to our customers.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what do companies need to think about before they adopt AI? Maybe some of the standard structures, the strategy. What's your advice on that?
Yeah, so there's so much pressure right now to just do something with AI. People are hearing it from their boards, they're hearing it from members of their team who want to adopt AI, but it is important to be intentional about how you go about this. And so we always sort of advise that people think about the standards they want to set, the structure and how they'll actually integrate it into their workflows, and then the strategy about how their strategy will evolve. So when it comes to standards, you want to think about both security standards, so making sure that your data, your customers' data, is secure in the technology that you choose. You also want to think about quality standards, right? You want to make sure that, so for example, at Jasper, even though we're an AI company, one of our standards is that nothing should be published that is AI only, right? It's really important that you figure out how in the workflow you're going to keep the human, not just in the loop, but in control in the outputs and have those quality checks. So a conversation internally about standards, writing that down into policies, and then thinking about what are the ways that your workflows are going to change as a result of integrating AI. And then finally, the strategy that you have as a marketing team, it's going to fundamentally change in a significant way over the next few years, not just by using AI tools, but because of the way that AI is going to change things like search and the way that AI is going to change the way that people discover and consume content. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of change coming. You just want to make sure you go into it intentionally.
Yeah. And then I guess beyond the hype, can you share some of the best early use cases of how generative AI is transforming, like specifically in the B2B industry and B2B marketing?
Yeah, so the use cases that I most love as a marketer are expansion use cases and kind of synthesis use cases. So by expansion, what I mean is taking something that was human-made, that was creative, that was sort of an original idea, and remixing it into different formats and for different channels and for different audiences, so you get more life out of that idea. Mm-hmm. I love that use case. I also love synthesizing large amounts of content to help you glean out lessons from it. So for example, a lot of B2B marketers, they work with inside sales teams. Those inside sales teams have scores and scores of calls every week that have recordings. How do you take the recordings of those calls, take those transcripts, synthesize out what are the most common questions, ideas, and then use that to sort of inform future marketing materials that you might create? Yeah. I love those two ends of the spectrum because again, it's about enabling marketers and getting more out of their work.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this a little bit before, but there are oftentimes a lot of hurdles or roadblocks. Share with us maybe some of the more significant challenges companies are facing when they're integrating generative AI into their strategies, and how should they be thinking about that and navigating that?
Yeah, so I find that there are sort of two things that happen in companies. Either there's a ton of experimentation happening and it's happening at the individual level, and that means there may be some risk because maybe individuals are using tools that aren't secure or they're using them incorrectly, or the company is completely locked down AI and no experimentation is happening at all. Yeah. Ideally, I think you want to be in the middle. You want to have a tops-down approach to this. You want to make sure that you're identifying that early use case, rolling it out as a team, and again, talking about those standards and the ways that your team is going to actually, realize the results of that AI use. Yeah. Set some goals, set some hypotheses, definitely get in there and play, but know why you're using it.
Yeah, and you just talked a little bit about that tops-down approach, right? Yeah. So what advice do you have for leaders or people managers or whoever is in a bit of that leadership position to help change the culture at a company to embrace AI? Like what could a rollout strategy look like?
Invest in AI education. LinkedIn has a ton of really good educational content around AI right now. Sign your employees, your team up for those. Have discussions about them. There are incredible things that AI can do. There are also a lot of weaknesses of AI. Make sure that your team knows what goes on behind the scenes of this technology and demystify it a bit.
Yeah.
I think that education is really important to sort of bring forward your entire company and get them ready to use these tools.
And we can't be in a conversation about B2B marketing without talking a little bit about measurement, obviously.
Yeah.
And so in the context of Gen AI, how should B2B marketers redefine value within their initiatives and measure even just the ROI of AI, knowing that it is relatively new and there is just a lot of, at times, hesitancy around it?
The whole discussion in the first year of sort of mass adoption of AI was all about efficiency.
Yeah.
How do we use AI to cut costs? How did we use AI to do more with less? And efficiency is great, but I think if that's the end of the story, it's sort of a underwhelming output of AI. I think we have to get beyond faster outputs into better outcomes for marketing materials. So that means, making sure that you are using AI in a way that increases leads to your business, that increases revenue. We have to get past these sort of time, hours saved metrics and towards, dollars in or contacts into your database.
Yeah. And then finally, looking ahead, how do you envision the evolution of B2B marketing as Gen AI continues to advance and become a greater part of our work lives?
Yeah, I think a lot of the discussion to this point has really been about, very microscopically on the use of these tools. Do we use this tool or that tool? But the broader picture is marketing is going to change in the next few years. As search generative experience rolls out across Google, there are predictions that organic traffic is going to really decline to people's sites. I think that we have to prepare for that and understand the impact of that. I think things like community are going to become more important. I think things like brand are going to become more important. There's this pendulum swing that has happened in marketing where, we used to invest a lot in brand marketing, and then we kind of shifted to more like performance-driven marketing, SEO, SEM. And I think there's a bit of a pendulum shift that is coming back now where we'll still do all those things. But as those channels go through a bunch of change, I do think that marketers need to think about brand and community again.
Well, thank you, Megan, so much for joining us today. And thank you all for tuning in from the LinkedIn Collective Studio at B2Believe here in New York City.